On today's show, the Caps get back into the win column as their offense comes alive and downs the Cats.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about how the Caps get back into the win column as they down the Panthers in a game that was pretty rowdy. There was a lot of offensive firepower on both ends, but the Capitals offense came roaring to life against a really good Panthers team. And ultimately, this is what the Capitals needed at this point, as they have struggled here in the last few games to get back into the win column. To beat the Panthers in regulation was huge. How did they get that done? I'll talk about that a bit later. I'll talk about the offensive strength on this team, and it's not just the marquee names. It's not just the top 6. Actually, in a lot of ways, it was the bottom 6 that got a lot of the offense in tonight. And then a little bit later, I'll talk about the strengths on the special teams and what needs to get worked on. And then in the final segment, I'll talk about Ryan Leonard and Cole Hutson. But just to get it going here, talking about that big win that the Capitals had over the Florida Panthers tonight, reigning Stanley Cup champions. That victory doesn't seem any more real. I don't know what will. Just a huge night for the Capitals as they found a way to get back into the win column. And, it is a team that forechecks really hard, the Florida Panthers. And one of the things they talked about in the game is that Paul Maurice kind of teaches his players to think ahead. Don't think that this is the move, what I'm going to do right now. Think the next step ahead. And I think that we saw evidence of that tonight, that they weren't just caught up in what they were doing in this singular moment. They were trying to win the game on the next step ahead. And ultimately, that is why the Panthers had some success. But I think one of the things that really kind of was the Achilles heel of the Panthers tonight is that once the Capitals started scoring goals, once they started pouring on the pressure, the wheel really started to wobble for that Panthers team. There was a lot of physicality, and I think that was evident because of Nick Dowd crashing the net and scoring a goal, that the Panthers team tonight looked pretty frustrated. So let's do that. Let's dive into the game tonight. And ultimately, I'm feeling pretty good coming off this one. We're going to talk about a big matchup. The Capitals took down the defending Stanley Cup winning Florida Panthers. This game, I'm going to say, was crucial for the Caps as they sought to snap a 2-game losing streak and solidify their position at the top of the Eastern Conference. And, there's not a whole lot to complain about this team. I would say the last few games, the things that they struggled with was mental games, like Spencer Carberry said, tape-to-tape passing, zone entries, those kind of things they struggled with. But the Capitals definitely were working tonight. The things that didn't work in the last few games were firing on all cylinders for the Capitals tonight, and ultimately what got them into the win column. The game started a bit sluggish, but quickly turned into a thrilling game filled with scoring chances, back and forth. The Capitals had the lead. Then all of a sudden, Panthers made it interesting. One of the standout stories, our bottom 6 forwards really stepped up big time, contributing 3 of the Capitals' 6 goals. Lars Eller in there, Nick Dowd. Lars Eller was a bit snake bitten here as of late. And one of the players that I talked about on the show saying, hey, this is not the Lars Eller that we remember from years ago. This is a guy that is a bit questionable, but he showed up big for the Caps tonight. Nick Dowd, of course, phenomenal, racking up 3 points, while the great Alex Ovechkin continued his pursuit of the monumental scoring chase of Wayne Gretzky. Now, the biggest thing that kind of got the positivity momentum going for the Capitals was because of Andrew Mangiapane's really slick goal out there. If you didn't get a chance, watch the replay of it. He's really good at getting the angles and the sharp shots. He doesn't go for the easy goal, and that was huge for Andre Mangiapane, who's been making waves since joining the fourth line with Nick Dowd and Brandon Duhaime. In this matchup against the Panthers, Mangiapane was instrumental, scoring a powerful goal late in the first period. That I think that to a certain extent, the Florida Panthers could have run away with this had it not been for Mangiapane scoring that goal. I guess what I'm saying is that just right out of the gate, it kind of seemed to favor the Panthers. Even before there was a score in the game, his first in 9 games, by the way, thanks to assists from Rasmus Sandin and Nick Dowd. But huge. And Brandon Duhaime in that mix as well. He was mic'd up on the Monumental broadcast. I think probably a really fun teammate to be around. He definitely brings his all every night. He's very vocal. He's very physical. It's one of the things I talk about on the show that's not easily quantifiable, but I think that Brandon Duhaime is a key piece. Just a great hockey player, but also I think a good person in the locker room and just has a good attitude. Now, in the third period, Mangiapane was added again, drawing a penalty before driving into the offensive zone, setting up Nick Dowd to score his 11th goal of the season, breaking a 16-game goal drought. So the bottom 6, huge. And Lars Eller as well breaks his drought. We can't forget about Lars Eller, who also made a huge impact in this game, ending his own 10-game goal drought with an early third period goal. And there wasn't a lot of fist pumping with him. I think he knows that, I got a goal here, but it's been quite some time since I found the back of the net. I'm just going to, kind of play this very humbly. After fumbling an earlier breakaway, Eller capitalized on a loose puck. That was one of the moments that before he scored that goal, talking about that fumbling of the puck, it was right there. Get it in the net. He didn't do it. And I was cursing to myself thinking, this is the guy. This is the center that we picked up. But he made good later in the game. Eller capitalized on a loose puck and drove to the net, beating Sergei Bobrovsky, who really ignited our final push in that period. So Lars Eller, huge. The bottom 6 was huge for the Capitals tonight. So just, the good building blocks in this game. And then, of course, Alex Ovechkin, doing what Alex Ovechkin does really well in scoring goals. And how about that moment when Ovechkin scored an empty net goal with 0.1 seconds on the clock? And I know he hates the empty netters. He talks about it, or I don't know if he hates it, but I think that, he hears a lot of chatter about it. But now he's just 17 goals away from passing Wayne Gretzky for the most goals in NHL history. So quite an evening for the Great Eight, quite an evening for the Capitals, all things considered. You take a look at it. There was also the Protas to Wilson goal that was really huge. That there were some key moments. There were some things that need to get worked on as well. I'm talking about some of the special teams not making the most of power play opportunities to start the game. That is for sure. But all things considered, I'm feeling pretty good. The Capitals found a way to take down a really good team, the Florida Panthers. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about offensive strength and special teams and what worked for the Caps and what needs to get cleaned up. I'll discuss next. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. And even if your team is not in the Super Bowl, you can still get really excited about the Super Bowl thanks to FanDuel. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5. And if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. So next we're going to talk about special teams and what worked in this game and some of the things that need to get cleaned up, as it was a game. You take a look at the box score, 6-3, but the Florida Panthers, they didn't go down quietly. That is a team that when you watch them play, you're like, yeah, that's why that team is ranked so well. That is why they won a Stanley Cup, and that was evident in the game tonight. But the strong penalty kill was huge for the Capitals, and let's give a shout out to the penalty kill. Kind of saving Logan Thompson's bacon a little bit, and you've been through a tough season, and tonight was no exception, highlighted by a shorthanded goal from Aliaksei, Protas, and Tom Wilson. So that was a huge moment for the Capitals, definitely a momentum builder. Protas forced a turnover, partnered with Tom Wilson for a 2-on-1 break, and set him up for his 22nd goal of the season. And that's what we like about Tom Wilson, right? The physicality, but putting up 22 goals. How many goals you got, Reeves? How many goals you got, Rempe? How many goals all the tough guys around there that are single dimensional? Not too many. That's what we love about Big Tom Wilson, putting up big numbers and also brings the physicality. But Protas, who has been on an absolute roll, registering points in 7 of his last 8 games, while Wilson extended his point streak to 3 games. 2 big frames moving around there. I think that is definitely part of the secret sauce for the Capitals' success and their success. That is some strong play from both of those guys. But the power play, like I alluded to earlier, is something that definitely needs to get cleaned up. While the penalty kill was stellar, we did struggle on the PP, going 0 for 3. And one of the things they talk about in the game, and I hate it too, is when they go into those set positions and it seems like it's just doomed to failure. It's overpassing, it's overthinking, things that seem to work for them more naturally. Earlier in the season, they've struggled with. Now, the adjustments to bring Pierre-Luc Dubois in for Connor McMichael did quite create the spark we were hoping for, as the second unit managed only 1 shot on goal. So what are some of the things that we know about head coach Spencer Carberry? He's not just going to keep going with this. Oh, no, he is going to continue to keep mixing it up until we find the right fit. So a lot of good things out there. The PK, huge. The power play, definitely needs some work. So talking about the game, I'm just going to try to stick to the positivity. The Capitals picked up a big win, got back into the win column, got the full points. It wasn't like, hey, we made it to overtime and we got 1 point. A huge thing for the Capitals. The other big storyline in this game as well was Logan Thompson playing in back-to-back games. And hey, this is what I've talked about all season. If you watch the show or listen to it on a daily basis, I've talked about that at some point the Capitals will go with one netminder or go with a hot hand. And some people are like, no, they'll keep alternating back and forth. We're way past that point of the season that we got to get Charlie in there just to get some work. Not to disparage him, but the Capitals want to go with more of the sure thing throughout the rest of the season. So I would expect Logan Thompson to get a majority of the starts. I think Charlie Lindgren will probably get a start here or there, but I would expect Logan Thompson, unless he completely falters, to be the hot hand for the duration. And goaltending was another key storyline. Logan Thompson, huge. Although he allowed 3 goals, he made 29 saves on 32 shots and showed great composure throughout the game. The ultimate competitor. I heard Bailey Johnson talk about that on another podcast, that he is a guy that takes his position very seriously. He is the ultimate competitor And that was evident on the ice tonight. Despite a couple tough outings, he's hanging in there and helping secure those big wins. And ultimately, why the Capitals went out and signed him in the first place. Now, defensively, this team was rock solid, blocking a total of 15 shots during the game, doing whatever it takes to get into the win column. Protas capped off our victory with an empty net goal late in the third, marking his 22nd goal of the season and sealing the 6-3 win for the Capitals. A lot to love, and there was some mixing. There was some matching throughout the game. Strategic final moves that Spencer Carberry was frustrated. You could tell by looking at him on the bench that things weren't going so swimmingly. In those final moments, the Capitals executed a few strategic moves by placing Lars Eller on the wing with Strome and Wilson, while Ovechkin played alongside Dubois and Protas. And it worked. The Capitals walked away victorious. I'm going to be honest here, Capitals fans. There were moments during this game that I thought they might not win, but they did. And that's the big thing to walk away from this game, is that the Capitals continue to accumulate a lot of points. Before I wrap up this segment here, good news surrounding the Capitals color analyst on the Monumental on the TV side, as he had a successful procedure. We want to extend our thoughts and well wishes to Craig Laughlin as he recovered from heart surgery. The Capitals community is behind him. Craig, we're all hoping that you can make a speedy recovery. Was kind of a sad moment seeing Joe Beninati almost choking up and crying. The two have worked together for such a long period of time. It has to be especially difficult for him, as he talked about that. It doesn't matter what team or what city he's playing in. There's a lot of memories playing or broadcasting with Craig Laughlin. So we're hoping for a speedy recovery. It's scary, those kind of things, but ultimately what we're happy about is that it was a heart issue, and they were able to treat it, to fix it before it was something worse, a heart attack or something of that nature. So all things considered, I am very happy for Craig Laughlin, as he is a key piece in the Capitals broadcast booth, along with Joe Beninati and Alan May. All things considered, is knocking it out of the park as well. But we ultimately hope for Locker to be back in the booth sooner than later. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about how great Ryan Leonard and Cole Hutson have been playing. And yesterday's show, I talked about Andrew Crystal and how huge he has been for the Capitals. But the prospects, the young guns on this team, well, they continue to impress. I'll break it all down straight ahead. Looking for tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a sports event, find the right tickets at the right price and just to avoid a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. And that is the frustrating part for me. My favorite band is coming to town. My favorite sports team is playing. But there's so many tickets to choose from, and I'm wondering, what is the view of the stage or the playing surface going to be? Take all of that guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day, talking about Capitals prospects, and more specifically, Ryan Leonard and Cole Hutson, two big pieces of the Capitals' future. I definitely think Ryan Leonard will most likely join the team at the end of Boston College season, and Cole Hutson is definitely a name to circle. And today we're diving into some exciting developments from Capitals prospects that you don't want to miss. And we'll talk about Ryan Leonard and Cole Hutson, two players that are really making waves in college hockey. First off, We'll talk about Ryan Leonard, a guy that is a young man playing with men and excelling. So there's definitely a taste, definitely a feeling that when he makes it to the NHL, that he is going to hit the ground running. There's probably going to be a bit of a curve there, but he is a young guy, a sophomore playing in college, playing against some elite older talent that I think that speaks volumes of what he's doing. And Ryan Leonard doing what he does best, lighting it up at Boston College, the standout forward for the number 1 ranked Boston College Eagles. Do yourself a favor, guys. A lot of these games are on ESPN, different platforms. Watch these games. It's fun. The Boston College in general is a fun team to watch, but knowing Ryan Leonard on there makes it that much more exciting. And he's been absolutely on fire, and his scoring streak is turning heads. In the recent Beanpot semifinal, Leonard scored in his 6th consecutive game, and he notched his 4th straight multi-point performance. Do you notice that if you watch or listen to this show and I talk about Ryan Leonard, rarely is it like, wow, he blew a tire. Wow, he really screwed up. It's just like he keeps climbing that ladder. That is ultimately why the Capitals went out and drafted him. Again, I'm so excited. Crystal, Ryan Leonard, a lot to be excited about. And he's been absolutely on fire lately, and his scoring streak is quite something. Can you believe he's racked up 10 goals in just 6 games? This guy is a beast out there. Could you imagine, the big frames out there? Can you imagine Tom Wilson, Aliaksei Protas, Ryan Leonard out there? Probably not on the same line, but that is a lot of big frames out there. Now, that is some next level clutch play by Ryan Leonard in that semifinal game. Leonard was a beast as well, contributing a goal and 2 assists in the Eagles' impressive 8-2 victory over Northeastern. He set up his teammates beautifully, including a slick assist early in the second period that set up Lucas Gustafsson for a backdoor goal. A playmaker, sees the ice very well, hockey IQ. Those are all of the things that you hear in today's young prospects. And later in the game, he helped extend the lead with another assist and then capped it off with an NCAA leading 23 goals. Quite something, and it's clear that Leonard is not just riding along. He is a significant driver behind Boston College's incredible 8-game winning streak. And perfect thing. I had questions. I had reservations about why didn't he join the team at the end of last season, or why didn't he join the team in last fall's camp? The right decision. His game is just going to the next level. Ultimately, the right decision. Now, next, Cole Hutson, another playing for BU, Boston University. Definitely a guy to put on your radar as well. We'll switch gears and talk about another promising prospect in Cole Hutson, who is making his mark with his 10th ranked Boston University Terriers. In the same Beanpot semifinal, Hutson had a standout performance, leading his team to a dominant 7-1 victory over Harvard with 4 points. A beast. The kid is a defensive powerhouse if you haven't seen him, and has shown incredible skill and speed on the ice. During this game, Hutson scored what can only be described as a highlight reel goal. Do yourself a favor and look it up. You'll thank me later. Maneuvering past a Harvard defender extends his team's lead. But if that was just it, that wouldn't be enough. It didn't stop there. He also provided crucial assists, increasing his point total to 26 for the season, with 7 goals and 19 assists in just 24 games. Quite something. His performance since returning from the World Juniors has been nothing short of stellar. He even made history as the first defenseman to lead the tournament in scoring. Go ahead, circle Cole Hutson. Keep an eye on him. Currently, Hutson is sitting 5th amongst all freshmen in the NCAA scoring, and the only defenseman in the top 15. So the future is bright. You might want to look for some sunglasses, because when you watch the Capitals in years to come, wow, it is going to be quite something. Now, he's trailing his USA teammate James Higgins by just 1 point, who is projected to be a top pick in the upcoming 2025 NHL draft. So what's next for Leonard and Hutson? Well, Of course, I think Leonard is closer to joining than Hutson, but both players are clearly ones to watch as they continue to develop. With prospects like Leonard and Hutson in the pipeline, Caps fans have plenty to be excited about. Again, I do think, we talk about the Four Nations, we talk about the trade deadline, that I think they need to keep a roster spot available for Ryan Leonard, as I would expect he will be joining the team very soon. As soon as Boston College wraps it all up, I would expect him. I guess we're talking more about the spring here. I'm jumping a little ahead of myself here, but in the spring, and I think that the Capitals are making their big push to get as many points and to have the best possible position in the standings. Ryan Leonard will be that missing ingredient that will take this already great Capitals team to the next level. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Washington Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are what makes this show successful. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.